Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. In this video, I'm going to discuss and show you how we can go ahead and create one of the great capabilities and which is going to be beyond the basic MFA, right? So what is that and how it's going to work, how it's going to help the security team as well as the organizations so that they are going to implement appropriate the multi-factor authentication, right? We all know and we are hearing MFA and multi-factor authentication since long back now, and we have been using it for different applications, right? And it's not only Microsoft ecosystem, but all other different applications as well who are providing consumer-based services for and customers or end users, even people who are non-technical or they don't have enough technical knowledge or skills or but still they are able to grab that details and learn and understand and use it, right? But this capability, which is obviously the one of the great one for the Microsoft 365 ecosystem altogether, right? And I'm going to show you how we can go ahead and set it up, right? So which is a Microsoft Entra ID capability, and which is going to allow us to customize how strong authentication we want it to deploy or how that authentication needs to be set up, right? And uh, it's not the part of the existing one, but rather it's a part of all different capabilities, including conditional access policy as well, wherein we can enforce, right? And it is called as authentication strengths, right? You might have seen and used that as well, but this is something which is going to be a game changer in many use cases and many capabilities as well, right? So I'm going to dive into it and show you how we can go ahead and do it, right? So the first question would be, what is authentication strength, right? So authentication strength is a conditional access policy capability, basically, to understand in simple terms, right? Which lets us or lets you as an IT pro to choose what multi-factor authentication methods are acceptable, right? When users are accessing any of those applications, right? And it's not a single or a kind of a basic MFA, but it's more than one size fits all kind of activity, right? For example, if we have multiple methods selected in the authentication strength, that means it's going to enforce a different those authentication strengths basis on the policy wherever we are going to apply it, right? So it's not something like one fit size all, right? Just a minute here. All right. All right. So, to start with, right, on the authentication or what is the authentication strength, basically, right? Earlier, we used to use password and the basic MFA, right? And then we were enforcing or using users or enforcing users to enter or do the either approve the prompt or the notification on the device, which is going to be obviously the mobile device, right? At the same time, now we are moving towards the passwordless authentication or passwordless capabilities, right? Even there are different methods as well, which we can combine together into the authentication strength, and that is going to be including basic multi-factor authentication as well as passwordless authentication, right? And that's going to be the stronger method for applications that we can enforce on, right? So it is a built-in capability of Entra with the conditional access policy, right? And it's a user predefined as well as custom strength that we can go ahead and set it up. And even it also supports the phishing resistant MFA or phishing resistant multi-factor authentication as well. So that's going to be pretty straightforward and useful, right? So now there might be a question why we should use it, right? So there are different use cases I would talk about, and we can go ahead and probably I'll show you how we can go ahead and create authentication method or authentication strength, and then that can be linked to the conditional access policy together as well, right? So how we can do that, and I'll show you that as well, right? So why we should use it, right? So let's break it down into different use cases, right? So first use case would be we wanted to secure all the access accounts or the administrator accounts where we wanted to protect all those accounts because definitely those are the highly privileged user accounts in the tenant or system, and no one should be able to simply go ahead and try to access and do any unwanted activities by using that identity, right? So in that case we would enforce the two-step verification or multi-factor authentication with authentication strength, right? We wanted to enforce double layer security, and only when that level of security is passed and certified by the user saying that who they say are, right? Then only they should be able to go ahead and access that respective system and perform any of those changes. As soon as they have the appropriate permissions, appropriate required roles, they should be able to go ahead and do it, right? That's the one scenario. The second one could be an application like healthcare system or HR system, because they do have a lot of confidential details of the company and business. And in the healthcare scenario, there would be a lot of details of the patients and hospitals overall, right? Which is really confidential for each end user or individual person. That's not really should be accessible and should be given to anyone, right? And that is why we need to make sure it is protected and secure, right? So only the people should be able to access who has a right set of access. And to do that, we would enforce the authentication strengths policy with either a stronger MFA or certificate-based authentication. And it's a combination of all, right? Which is going to be also a part of, let's say, regulatory or compliance requirements, wherein be it PCI DSS, HIPAA, or any of those regulatory requirements, right? Let's talk about the third scenario, wherein there is an organization who wanted to deploy or provide policies in order to access only those resources which they are part of. And even if they try to access any of those resources from any other locations outside the country or while they are traveling from one country to another or any other locations, then we wanted to take actions, right? So even that is also possible by deploying a right set of uh, network locations as well as locations and IP ranges, and then enforce the strong method along with authentication strengths. Then it's going to block access, and we can simply protect the workloads and access levels, which is spread across geo locations or different countries, basically, right? Which is also going to fall under the zero trust enforcement, as well as is going to be improving our geopolitical threats, which is easy for to mitigate all those scenarios, right? The next one is going to be protect sensitive apps only, wherein we can enforce the strong authentication methods along with authentication strength policies, and then it's going to allow us to make sure this respective application or any application that is going to be part of the business and how we wanted to provide access, whether they should be accessed inside or in-house or managed devices or publicly accessed or over the corporate network via VPN or any other way. then that's also possible to deploy and provide access to those users, right? And there's one more use case which is for in general, right? In general, as in it could be on education industry, it could be on uh, it could be government administration or any of those organizations. Even they do have also a lot of data, right? Even they do also use different applications, and that is why we wanted to make sure those organizations are also protected, and even that scenario also this can be implemented and used to protect the data and access levels and details and everything together, and only the people who have right set of access should be able to go ahead and use it, right? So these were the five use cases which I talked about, right? And definitely there would be more than these five as well, and if you have used any other scenarios or seen anyone, you can put them in the comments and would be happy to answer any thoughts, or I can collaborate on it, right? So let's jump on to the demo. I'll just show you how we can create authentication strength, and then we can bring or bind it with the conditional access policy, right? So let me share my screen quickly here, and we should be good to go ahead. All right, let me log in to the portal and should be ready. All right. All right. I am on Entra portal, right? And from here, if I have to go back and come back to the conditional access, but before that, I would show you how we should create authentication strength, right? And how then we can map it to the conditional access policy, right? Which is going to allow us to make sure our conditional access policy is stronger than the basic or kind of existing setup, right? So let's go ahead and go here under authentication methods, and here's the authentication strengths, right? So you can see that I have created few of them before, but definitely we have an option to create one or many basically as per our needs and requirements. And once we create one, then it should be good, or it should be ready for us to use, right? So let's say I wanted to use it or create it for application specific. Let's say HR app, HR application, strong MFA, right? I'll just give it a same description. So we can give it a description as well. And for this, we wanted to create this authentication strength with multiple layers of policy, right? So let's say if we wanted to see all of them together, so we can see that these are the four different options where we can simply expand and use any of these, right? Which includes single factor authentication, multi-factor authentication, passwordless MFA, and phishing resistant MFA, right? Now, if it is a HR system or any system where it has a lot of data, which is including business data, company data, financial data, right? And that is something which we wanted to keep it safe and protect, right? So definitely we would look around how we wanted to provide access to the people, right? Be it company users or employees or anyone who is going to access it, right? In that case, let's say we wanted to use it on only the managed devices or anywhere, but still we wanted to protect it. So we would start from, let's say, phishing resistant MFA. So we can either enforce the Windows Hello for Business. At the same time, we can enforce the passwordless authentication or passwordless MFA, which is going to work with the phone sign in, right? And we don't want to go with any other way or other method, which is this is also safe, right? But there are some of the options which may not be appropriate in the uh, applications, because depending on organizations or how they wanted to put it, right? So that is why those may not be used in different scenarios or use cases, but when we wanted to go with the passwordless or stronger one, that means definitely the companies would choose these options, right? So for now, let's go ahead and I'll choose this one instead of any other and click next. So on the review button, you can see this option or this option. So now it's going to match any of these two together and it's going to be enforced on. Let's go ahead and create one. So it is going to be created, right? And once it is created, that's ready for us to map it with the conditional access policy, right? So you can see that it is over here. It's going to show as a custom, and then it's going to also show the authentication methods which we have mapped together. And then under the conditional access policy section, you can see it not configured in any of the policy yet. And there's an option for us to either delete, edit, or duplicate if you wanted to. Now let's go back to the conditional access policy where we can map this one, right? And to map up, we need to create conditional access policy, or we can also bind this authentication strength in our existing conditional access policy as well, right? But for now, I'm going to create separate policy, and that's going to be easy for us to map it, right? So I'll just give it a same name, HR app strong MFA, right? So it's easy to identify, right? So for now, I'm going to keep it none, and then, but when we are making it or when we are testing it, that should be something like we should go with a specific user group and test it thoroughly. And then once we know and have expected results, then we should make it broader, right? For now, I'm going to select all the applications, right? And also there is option, not this one. So this is a networking one. We even on the network side also we can make the changes, including all the network and all of that. On the conditional or conditions, we can go ahead and set up appropriate conditions on the device level, application level, location level, right? And similarly, all of that is going to be applied, right? On the grant one, which is something authentication strength is going to be deployed, right? So here under access control is the option for us to require authentication grant, right? And that is going to be shown up over here, right? So you can see that the one which we have created here, which is going to be this one, right? So once we select that, the same is going to be deployed. Now you would see the difference over here, which is require MFA or multi-factor authentication and required authentication strength. So these both options or features cannot work together, right? Because either we have to select this one or this one, right? When we are using authentication strength, then we need to select that respective one, but not others, right? Because those are similar in nature, but at the same time, they are overlapping, right? And that is why it is not allowing us to change or use both of the features at the same time, right? And then we can make the appropriate one here and hit the select. And once we are good, we can simply report only for seeing how it is working and if there are any impacts on any of the user bases. And if we are ready to go ahead and deploy it across, we should be turn this on and or probably we can test it, right? And then create one, right? So this is how we would be able to go ahead and map it with the conditional access policy and deploy it across with the strong authentication or authentication strengths, right? So, yep, that is what I wanted to show you and talk about so that you can know and learn about this. And definitely, you have used it. You might have seen different scenarios and use cases of this one, right? And yep, so if you have any questions, any doubts, anything that you wanted to know and understand and learn more about it, definitely I would be happy to help and collaborate on anything of that. So, yep, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, people around you, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel, right? So it is going to give you every new video whenever it is uploaded, right? So that's all. Thanks for watching and bye for now.